What a crazy video it was. Closing entertainment? Well done you. What is up, SmackNPie? SmackNPie here. Welcome back to another Dark Deception video. Today we are going to analyze, break down, and talk about everything related to Notorious Pig video, more so towards story and then later gameplay section. Notorious Pig rap music dropped on 11th September as scheduled. Vince then announced that the video itself will drop at some time later. However, out of nowhere, Q&A dropped, well, for 29th September, and Notorious Pig video dropped for members out of nowhere. All of that happened in few hours and no one had any clue what happened and why it happened. Whilst we're looking for answers to those questions, Closing answered some of the biggest questions regarding Chapter 4. In the Notorious Pig video, we learn a lot of things about the pig, his abilities and skills alongside Malak, Lucky, and Penny herself. I'm going to be as unbiased as possible, so here we go. The video mostly contains SFM animations created by Golden Diamond. Notorious Pig, as we know, is a reference itself. We talked about it. But the pig, third member of JoJo Gang, talks about ribs, slow cook, and basically killing us painfully, slowly, and enjoying the whole process as it's some sort of MasterChef episode. Pig here is basically a reckoning that is knocking on our kitchen doors. It's basically a really detailed explanation of his process of preparing human ribs, and even before how he likes to get those ribs prepared in the first place. So in the music itself, I talked about how he mentions his role in the gang, how his methods of getting the job done and making the boss happy, in this case Malak, are some of the highlight of his character. Pig showed one thing in specific, and that is my observation from the rap and video itself. He sure likes his victims in a specific way, but even more so that he wants to prove himself to Lucky and Malak. Lucky, of course, because he gets W all the time. Luck is literally on his side, but for Pig, he has to prove that he not only deserves to be in the gang, but also he earns his right place all day, every day. The way he tortures his victims, keep their meat like it's some sort of meat and rib museum, and of course preparing the ribs in a special way itself. I kinda hate to say it, but he's basically a member that loves to do his job but also takes time for himself to feast. Like the shot where he talks about how he and his crew killing it literally and then having a feast only to follow up with holding up his breath for a few seconds because of, again, his weight. Not fat shaming, just mentioning what he himself said. So he's kinda like a member who doesn't really care about Malak's plan or black magic or anything, or why the crew was actually formed in the first place. Instead, he just likes to get the job done and then feast on the ribs of his victims. I can see the appeal now, boys. Here, I would like to mention one more point. One of the abilities many people talked about, even in the lyrics last time, is him mentioning machete and smelling. Now, between sniffing innocent to blood sticking on his machete to quote, got smells on smells, senses going off the rails, it is pretty obvious that we're looking at senses ability here. Now, I will connect this ability with gameplay in just a second because I want your attention here on Machete. A lot of people told me how they believe that he will have a weapon, and now that is confirmed with Machete. While I love the idea of monsters having weapons, I think Malak is smarter than that. These monsters are not. At least not all of them. At least not this one. That's why Malak gave him other abilities. The biggest one is, of course, strength, brute force. Now, I would like to talk about one of my favorite moments of the video. Around 3 minutes 4 seconds, he mentions how when Rabbit says get him, I go straight through the wall. That shows Lucky the Rabbit's role in the group and his role himself as well. But even more so, one of his biggest ability, pure strength of breaking straight through a wall. One of the shots in the video shows Lucky and Pig on a stage together. Of course, it is meant as a comedy and metaphor for him showing off his ability to his crewmates and mostly the leader of the gang, Lucky, because who doesn't want to impress their leaders? But all of this is purely in his head. The way he thinks, he does stuff versus the way they actually turns out to be, both are awesomely highlighted in the video. All of the SFM animations are him doing things and fantasizing about how big of a deal it is. It is, don't worry about it. Whilst the actual gameplay is what's going on in the real world of Mascot Mayhem, not that much impressive to Lucky the Rabbit or Malak himself. This shows Pig's role, how other characters treat him and thinks about him, because they don't think about anything for him, but he wants that attention. He wants to feel like a valuable member of the gang, of the team, because he gets the job done and then he feasts himself with the ribs of his victims. But we know that neither Malak nor Lucky cares about anything at all except getting the job done. This shows how Malak does his stuff in this world. These monsters aren't exactly senseless. They have a history, characteristics, and in this world they have jobs to do. What job, you might ask? Well, guard these ring pieces. Malak chose these creatures, made them into monsters, gave them the abilities to guard his precious ring pieces, to protect his own power, which now Beers is going after through us Dugause. One more thing I observed from this is that Malak is recreating entirely real world and creating an army of his followers, monsters, creatures, and creating a world where he has the entire control. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is for another video. Now we get to where everyone is talking about, the freaking gameplay for chapter 4. First time ever after Barely Buried, because let's not forget, Barely Buried's gameplay was the first look ever at chapter 4. Now we have even more gameplay for chapter 4, most specifically for Mascot Mayhem. But that is for part 2, ladies and gentlemen. I know, listen y'all, part 2 will where we're going to talk about gameplay and everything related to that. I do this every time. Whenever there's a trailer or anything, I talk about the story first and then gameplay and mechanical, technological aspects later. But don't worry, that one is going to be clean as a whistle. So make sure to like to get that video as early as possible. 50k, let's freaking go. You know, see boy. I have a new language now. The vocabulary is increasing every day.